You don't want someone to perform for you, or they change for you. I think that there's a way to kind of share your expectations and your needs without making demands.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to our channel. My name is Tim. This is my beautiful wife, Pauline, and you're tuning in to another episode of the W Podcast, where you get wisdom in a word with the
Wheeler.
Hey, so we are super excited to have you back. We're still doing question of the day, where you can submit an anonymous question and ask us anything: love, sex, dating, marriage, whatever you want. Ask us and we'll do our best to get to it. And you can do that by going to our bio, anywhere on our social media channels, and asking us a question. So, what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about man-children. We're talking about someone's maturity level and all that on the side of the male. So I'll read the question and we can dive right in. So the question says, how would you deal with a man that is in the phase of going from a boy to a man? That's why I said man-child. You get it now? Okay. And it's like he's scared to grow, but you both love each other and have been together a minute. I don't know how long a minute is. Do you stick it out or leave him and see if you can come back together at a later date?
So many questions. First of all, thank you for your question. Appreciate it. So many questions. This is why we love the super detail, even though they're long as a month to read. I'm not calling this super detail.
Okay.
I'm saying the reason I love it because I got so many questions to be able to give an even better answer to this. Because like you said, what the heck has been together a minute? That's so relative, especially in Christian dating. Yeah. So anyway, also like how old is he? That would be very.
How old are you?
That would be very interesting to know. But let's start here. I'm gonna just go right there. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is leave them.
Yikes.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is leave them. And here's why I say that. Because this person, the man you love, and no shade, like he might be a good dude, but he just may not be at a place where he's ready and able to mature at a rate that's fast enough to be able to healthily love you that you need, in a way that you need. And he may not be able to do that when you're together because he may be too comfortable. Because being with you just helps him be like, I'm good. Like everything's going smooth. There's no real urgency to change. Now, I am not saying that you shouldn't stay with somebody who needs to grow and get better, because that would be hypocritical, because Pauline did that with me. When we first got together, I had a lot of things I was still working on. And to be honest, like we're always going to be still working on some things. But I'm talking about like I was still working on my work ethic, like things like that. But here's the thing. I was showing her my commitment to getting better in those areas. Like she didn't have to send a question. Did you disagree?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, you went like this. You like put your head down. I was like, okay now. Don't make me a liar on this camera. But anyway, so I was showing Pauline that I had a commitment to wanting to get better in that area of my work ethic. That does not mean that I was perfect, but it does mean that she could see that, oh, he was like a C, low B student when I got with him. And after we got together, he made the dean's list every semester. Like
there was progress.
There was tangible fruit, tangible evidence that I was putting in the work to mature. Because you don't want to stay with a man who isn't maturing. Because if that's the case, the chance that he actually does mature one day are low, to be honest. Like if he's not showing any inclination to want to get better when he's with you and you're, talking to him about getting better and wanting to grow, it could be one of those situations where he's 40 years old and you're always wanting more for him. You're always wishing he went for the promotion. You're always wishing that he led your kids in worship. Like whatever it may be, you want to be careful if you're not seeing any signs or fruit of wanting to grow. The other thing I'll say, and I'll let you go.
No, you got it.
We don't pray enough. Period. Myself included. Let's not.
Me too.
There's no holier than thou. But we don't pray enough, especially when it comes to dating. Like, I'd be curious, have you really prayed to God, I should say, about this situation? Like, have you prayed and asked God, like, should I be dating right now? That's a scary question.
No.
Most people don't want to pray, because we're grown. We want to do what we want. Why shouldn't I be dating? I'm a grown adult. But is it possible that God could not want you to be dating in this season, and that would help your person grow that you're talking about here, because you wouldn't be with them, so they could potentially have that space to be able to not always be in a relationship worrying about somebody else. Because that's the thing, when you're in a relationship, your focus isn't solely on you. Like, it does have to be somewhat on the other person. And you can grow that way, but you have to be very intentional to make that happen. So making sure that you are praying and asking God, should I even be in a relationship? Should I be in a relationship with this person specifically right now will help you have more peace about what you should be doing personally. Because you asked us, like, should I leave him? Should I stay? And first, that's where you got to start, is with God.
Yeah, that's good. Always starting with God, of course, is the best plan. And yeah, I love what you said about, we don't pray enough, of course, and like in prayer in both ways, just like you explained, not just sharing your concerns with the Lord, but also hearing from God what he wants and what his will is. And it is really scary. I get scared praying a lot. And sometimes I will journal to the Lord and I'm like, oh God, I don't even know what you have to say. But it's always for our best. And his will prevails in the end. So you don't want to just delay the inevitable, which I think you're aware of that, which is why you're even asking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that it's very interesting that you phrase the question, how would you deal with a man? I don't know if that's how you talk about just everything or just this specific situation, but I would not want to be in a situation where I'm dealing with anybody, because honestly, the more that I chew on this and think about this question, it does remind me of a dysfunctional relationship, like a mother-son relationship. And I mean, you even use the word boy, like boy to a man. And
unless he's literally a boy, he about 13, 14, 15, that's a problem.
Well, but even at that age, you want to be showing signs of growing into manhood, which I know is not always the case for, different generations, all that stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're seriously dating somebody, considering marriage, no matter what age you are, you need to be seeing signs of them being a man. And I'm sure you do see signs of that with him, but I'm guessing it's not enough. Or it's not in the areas that matter most. Yeah, and I think you just really need to ask yourself, like, what type of person do you want to be with? Because if he's scared to grow, that's not something you can help him with. A lot of deep-seated fears are things that we haven't experienced God's love yet with. And Tim and I were literally just talking about this because this is coming up in my personal life right now of like things that I'm afraid of, and it's because there was a lack of love, really from other people, never from God. Of course, God always loves and shows his love the best, but and the Bible says that perfect love casts out fear. So if he's afraid to grow, maybe he tried to grow in the past and felt like he failed and felt like things didn't work out, so he doesn't really see the point in investing in himself, whether it be like reading books, listening to podcasts, having mentors, having godly friendships. I don't know, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. And again, at the end of the day, fears are so deep within our heart, just the same way love can be so deep within our heart. It's not something that a person can help another person with. Yeah. You have to surrender and want that for yourself.
Can I say something I feel like you were trying to touch on, or were you starting to think there was almost vibes of like an orphan spirit through this comment, in the sense of I felt like you were kind of saying it seems as if this person is willing to settle for this, almost as if they're not sure if there's anyone out there better. So let me just stick with this person, deal with them trying to grow and get better, because I'm not really sure if there's anyone else out there. So I'd rather just stay where I'm comfortable. Is that something that could be at play?
I mean, definitely when I was highlighting the deal with phrase, I definitely think yes, like that comes from somebody who's settling. You shouldn't be dealing with somebody that you're willingly with, you're with at your free will. It's different if you're dealing with a manager at work, or you're dealing with your parents or a sibling, like people who you didn't get to choose. But you should not be dealing with a dating partner or with friends. Those should be relationships that are adding to your life, and that are a blessing, and a blessing without sorrow. So if that's not the case, then I would not put myself in this scenario, unless you have a child with that person. That doesn't mean you have to be with them, you can have a child with them. You co-parent. But yes, absolutely, it could be kind of coming from a sense of lack of like, oh, well, this is kind of all I have. And I know a lot of women do deal with that. They are trying to manage that, and it's definitely not something from God. God is a God of abundance. And I think a lot of times we have our priorities wrong when it comes to the type of men we choose to date. It's like, oh, well, he's tall, he makes good money, he's from like similar background as me, he goes to church, I'm cool. But then when you're getting to know these people and all these things are coming up, oh, well, I learned that he doesn't really invest into himself, and he's very, he lacks ambition, he lacks, drive and vision. And those are not things, if those things are important to you, then you really shouldn't be linking yourself with someone who has different values. And that's what I wish, if I could like shout from the rooftops, one thing that I've learned through our relationship and then seeing other people's relationships as well is like, your values are the most important thing that have to be on point or have to be unified when you're thinking about marrying somebody. Your job will change, your house will change, your car will change, the amount of money you change, your body will change. All these things will change that a lot of times we get honestly sucked into the lust of the eye that the Bible talks about. We make decisions based off of that. Or I want this relationship to be as easy as possible, so I'm gonna date somebody of my same race. I'm gonna date somebody who's 5 inches taller than me, or like all these things that just honestly don't matter. If you have those things, that's nice, and absolutely a lot of times God does, throw those things in with you, but you have to prioritize somebody who has the same values as you, because that's who that person is at their core. That's how they think, that's how they make their decisions, that's how they ended up at the job that they're at, that's how they ended up making the type of money that they're making. All the fruit of their life that you feel is attractive comes from their values. So you have to make sure that their values are aligned with yours. The problem is that fruit can be counterfeit. And we've all seen fake fruit before. Something looks real good, and then you pick it up and you bite it and you realize this is not a real apple. And this is the hard part with dating, is if you're doing it by yourself, in one sense of you're not really in step with the Lord. A lot of things that we've seen people do, or a lot of approaches we've seen people take, is they will talk to the Lord in the beginning of dating somebody. Hey, God, do you want me to date with this person? Do I have a green flag or a green light from you to go on a date with this person? And sometimes he'll say yes. Sometimes you don't even let him give him a chance to answer. And then you check in then, and then you don't check in again, never. You're just like, oh, well, things are going great. Why would I ask God about it? But the reality is the phase that you're in is one of illusions. Just like you don't really bite an apple until you get married. You don't really, and I'm not even talking about sex, I'm talking more about like having real deep conversations, really seeing how people make their decisions, seeing people's bank accounts look like, seeing how people spend their idle time or their downtime. Things like that you don't really get to see until you're married. And a lot of people get surprised because they don't ask really good questions, and their vetting process and their dating process was very superficial. So I know that this is kind of like going all over the place, but I think that going back to the whole boy-man piece of the question, how do you deal with a man who's in the phase of going from a boy to a man? I don't date boys. I would not date boys because I'm a woman. Now, if you're a girl and you want to date a boy, that's fine. We personally don't love dating in high school. It can be done. But it's just most people don't do it well. But I mean, and I'm not even thinking that you are a teenager. But I think that if you're a woman and you are a woman of value and of character and of substance, which you obviously are, you need to date a man who is also of that. And as honestly, it sounds like you've had a good dating process because you're seeing these things about this guy that are coming up. You're seeing that, you guys enjoy each other's company, but he's scared to grow. Well, if growth is important to you, if you marry somebody who's scared to grow and you love to grow, you're gonna feel like he's holding you back for the rest of your life. You're gonna want to take risks. You're gonna want to invest into yourself. You're gonna want to make steps of faith, and he's not going to want to do it. And then you're gonna be upset with him for being who he always was. But so it's really important that if you want to grow and you're a person of growth mindset, that you are also with somebody who can take leaps of faith with you, even if they're scared. Tim and I do that all the time. It's like, this is scary, but this is what we feel like God's calling us to do, so we're going to do it. And we're going to do it hand in hand, instead of like, I'm not doing that, good luck, you're not going to drag me down that path. So it's really important that you make your decisions based off of value. Don't make it off of time. Don't make it up based off of how long you guys were together. The devil uses time as bondage for so many people. And this is why it is important, before you get in a relationship, if you can, to have a boundary on how long you are dating, and to enforce that boundary. So we don't know how long you guys have been together, but honestly, the amount of time you've been together is probably only going to hurt. I think if you told us, we would probably be like, well, that's by now, you should have been gone. Because you can get to know somebody pretty well, 3 to 6 months. It depends on
how intentional your questions are.
Yeah, how much time you're spending together. Things like that. But yeah, I think that whenever you get to a place of like, oh, am I sticking it out? Like kind of grinning and bearing it? That doesn't sound fun to me. That doesn't sound like God to me. That doesn't sound like exceedingly abundantly above all I could ask, think, or imagine. And I think, I don't want you to settle. I don't want you to settle at all. And I think, there's some questions you can ask yourself of like, how much do you believe in him? I think you never want to be with a man as a woman that you don't believe in, that you don't see vision, you don't see, wow, he's going places and I want to be a part of it. And it's not even about like going places like money. I know for Tim and I were together, I heard so many, like when we first started dating, you had all of these ideas and things you wanted to do and businesses you wanted to launch. And I was like, okay, like he has vision, he has ambition. I can get behind or stand beside somebody like that. And a lot of this podcast is just one example of one of the things that, has manifested from visions that you had and something that the Lord had burdened on your heart and mine as well.
But I didn't start here. I started out being a little boyish, but I was showing tendencies to grow. But you were at least
talking about it. And that was one of the things that, for all the ladies listening, one of the questions we used to get all the time when we did.
I also was 20 when you met me, so that's,
Right. One of the questions
don't let him be 32. Sorry, don't let him be a 40-year-old. Yeah, you still trying to be a boy or man. No.
Right. One of the questions we used to always get when we would do our dating small group was, what does leadership look like in a relationship and just in general for a man? And one of the things that I looked out for with Tim, because I wanted a leader. I was already a leader, so I was like, I definitely need somebody who's a leader. I should say I considered myself a leader. We're all leaders, but was taking initiative. So even when it came to these visions and these things that were on your heart, I didn't share what was on my heart about my passion for relationships with you first. You brought it up, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let me hear what he has to say about this and what he would want to do and what kind of what he would want to achieve or build in this area. I wasn't like, oh, I want to do this. Do you want to do it too? And he was like, yeah, sure.
Whatever you say, girl.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of times, like, guys will just say anything to keep you. And then you're wondering, oh, I thought he wanted to do this, and I thought he wanted to do that. And it's like, we all say things when we're hungry and, make promises we shouldn't. So, yeah, don't be like that. But, yeah, so if you don't believe in him and you don't believe in his future, and there's really nothing more, it's just... that's a good time to end it right there. And if you don't know that he has visions and ambitions for the future and he's not initiating those conversations, that's what you're looking for. He doesn't have to actively be launching a business or, whatever it is, because I know there's a lot of steps to that. Everyone's in different places in their life. But just him talking about it. I mean, the Bible says that out of the wellsprings of our heart, the mouth overflows. So if you love something, you're gonna talk about it. If you love your favorite meal, all of your friends know what your favorite meal is. Like you talk about it. That's what you want after a long, hard day. And same thing too. If you love God, you're gonna talk about Him. If you love, whatever you love, whatever people love, they talk about. So even if he's not doing anything right now, he needs to be talking about it. Not
That's
just
good.
when you bring it up.
You better bring that word. Okay, wisdom in the word with the wheeler. Okay, I like that. That was good.
Right.
So 2 quick things I want to also say. Please don't make any rash decisions or break up with anybody before you give them a chance to grow. And what I mean really by that is like, don't break up with somebody and you never told them, hey, I think you're a boy and I don't think that you show any growth.
Yeah.
And obviously don't say it like that. But like, make sure you've given them a chance to show that, all right, like I got to get my stuff together, because then I don't know. I would, and I'm not saying you stick with them forever, but like you say that and then you see what they do the next 2 weeks, next month. Like, do they show any desire to get better? And then if they don't, then let's back.
But I agree. But also you have to be careful. And so relationships are very, gray. You don't want someone to perform for you, or they change for you. I think that there's a way to kind of share your expectations and your needs without making demands. So you can say,
I wasn't saying to make demands, but break it up.
or saying, well, because if you're like, hey, if you don't get this together, then we're gonna be breaking up in a few weeks type thing. This is your 2-week notice. And I do agree you should give people a chance to change. But dating is evaluation. This isn't a marriage where you're saying, hey, I'm tied to you. Well, your failure is my failure. So we gotta get this together. It's more of you getting an assessment of, is this person a good partner for me? And it's really hard to stay sober-minded when you're dating.
So what would you say?
So if I was in this situation, number one, yes, we talked about prayer. Ask the Lord, do you want me to be in a relationship right now? Do you want me to be in a relationship with this person right now? And see what He says, see how God responds in the quietness of your heart through His word, but then also in kind of how life is unfolding. I would also not do this by myself. So I would be taking it to a mentor, to a leader, to my aunt, to my mom, to somebody who I trust. Ideally a woman who has a healthy marriage, or a marriage that you admire to some degree, and talking to them about it, and saying hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Or what are some, can you give me any advice? I wouldn't be trying to make a decision like this by myself, especially if you guys have been together a minute and your emotions are already super tied into the relationship. You're not going to be able to make a clear decision on your own. And then after that, if I'm still feeling I don't know if this is the right path for me being with this person, I would have a conversation and say, hey, this is what I've noticed. As long as we've been together or over the past 6 months or whatever the case is, this is what I've noticed. Is that true? It kind of seems like you are afraid to grow, and give examples of what you've seen. And I wouldn't do this kind of it doesn't need to be a serious sit down conversation. I would maybe try casually, when we're on the phone, or even what's better is if he tells you something oh yeah, today at work, this happened, my boss wanted me to do this, but I'm not doing that. And it's oh, okay, I've actually heard you say that a couple of times. Do you want to grow in this area of your life? No, I don't. Okay, well, what area of life do you want to grow in? I don't know. Okay, well, I would really love to hear that. I know I kind of sprung this question on you, but I would love to talk more about this maybe another day. And if you kind of give him a couple opportunities and let it grow, so that was a casual example. Now kind of make it more serious. Hey, I want to talk to you about something tonight. Can I call you at blah, blah, blah time? Hey, this is what I've noticed. When I bring this up, it's kind of been the same pattern of responses. Tell me more about that. It is really important for me to be with somebody who has a growth mindset. Do you think that's you? Yeah, it's me sometimes. Yeah, it's me, not sometimes. Okay, well, would you be open to growing in that area? It is really important to me. no, I'm not open to that. Like, are you trying to change me? If he blows up, then like, all right, cool, you got your answer. But then I would go to what you said about, okay, if he says yes, he's open to growing, and he does, and this is how you make sure that you don't create this performance-based thing in your relationship. Is if he says, yeah, I'm open to growing, and you're like, great, like, I can't wait to see, I'm cheering you on, like, let me know how the progress goes, and let him do it. Don't send him books and podcasts and you should go out to lunch with this person and that, and basically like mothering him and telling him you're coaching him on how to grow. He said he wants to do it, let him take initiative. It's his life at the end of the day. And then when you guys are if you're checking in with him in a few weeks, hey, how's that growth kind of project, been going for you? And he says like, oh, I love it, I've learned so much, I found this podcast, I started going to lunch with this guy, I started having these conversations, I made these changes, I'm going to the gym at 5 a.m. and then I would be blown away, like, wow, like, that's incredible, like, I helped him. And as a woman, that's our job, is to help him by loving conversation. You don't ever want to come to a guy and say, you good for nothing, da da da, you don't even do this, you don't even do that, you think, you're all this because you have that, but you don't even grow. No, that's not going to help anything. You're going to push him away, and you disrespected the mess out of him. But if you kind of follow that path that I laid out, and if he's super excited about the growth that he's seen in himself, that's what you want to hear. But if he's done it, he's like, oh, I started a book and it's okay, and I haven't picked it up, I've kind of got distracted, or this came up, that came up, then he's not serious. And that's kind of when you know if this is the type of person that you want to continue with.
That was so good. I hope you are taking notes, ladies, because I'm dead serious. Like, that last part you said, like, after you ask him and he says he was going to do something, don't start sending him stuff. Don't start trying to help him do it. Like, let him show you that he's willing to put in that work. But I also love this conversation because we're also helping people, whether this is their person they're going to marry or not, we're helping them learn how to have hard conversations.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the things we avoid in dating is tough conversations. And then we get married and we want to get a divorce because we never learn how to have conflict that's healthy, so that we can work out our problems and then move forward. Instead, we run into conflicts in marriage, and now we have irreconcilable differences because we never learned how to talk in dating. So that's really good. The last thing I want to say, the last sentence that this person wrote, they said, do you stick it out or leave him and see if you come back together at a later date? I just want to say, please don't break up with somebody and leave a piece of your heart with them.
I'm hoping you can get it back another day.
Please don't do that, because whether they say it or not, they may not feel or do the same thing that you say. So you may say, yeah, we're going to come back together at another point, but they may not feel that way. They may want to go and be with somebody else. They may want to do something different, but you're sitting in the back of your mind, you're waiting, you're not dating other people that come your way who are better options because you're like, you know what, I'm waiting for Ricky. He's going to get better. I'm waiting. And he's out here doing whatever he's doing. So I would say that. And then also, God may not want you to be with them.
Yeah.
Like, we make our own plans, but God determines how they fall. Like, just because.
That is, but God determines how they fall. Yeah.
Well, there's another thing that says we make our own plans too. But there's multiple verses where God is confirming, yeah, just because you want something, you ain't getting it all the time.
Or because you put the effort forth to get that thing.
So God may not want you with them, and that's something that you want to be mindful of.
Yeah, that's really, really good. I think that again, we don't know how long y'all been together, all that y'all been through, but just with that last statement, you can tell the claws are in deep. And that's probably an issue in and of itself. I know that's not what that's not what your question was about, but I don't think you should ever be, if you're gonna walk away, walk away. The Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. So if you're gonna break up, break up. If you get back together, again, obviously there are couples that have this for, but that should not be your intent. You should be free. No chains. Don't leave anything behind. Like Tim said, don't leave a piece of your heart with somebody, hoping you get it back later. That is such dangerous soul ties and dangerous just bondage that you're entering into. I don't know if there's sex in the relationship or all those things that make it easier to be bound to somebody, but if you're gonna break up, break up, and remind yourself why you broke up. We're not a fan of breaks. We're not a fan of, taking time and figuring out and then maybe come back to that. This is so cruel to a person's heart, because you broke up for a reason. So be broken up, do what you need to do to heal, and focus on other things. Don't be the Bible says don't be double-minded.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the perfect example of being double-minded.
Yeah. So there was a lot of different things we talked about in this episode that I think you really want to, not just the person who asked this question, but everybody.
Well, I want to add one more thing before we move on. So back to about the preventing performance and changing for another person. One of the things that you did, but even before we got together and before we were interested in each other, when we were talking, I remember talking to one of our pastors about like, hey, Tim and I may be like interested in dating each other. I want to like run it by you. And what she told me, she was like, I don't really know Tim that well, but one of the things I do know is that he came to a pastor about some type of counseling thing with his future and all that stuff, and the pastor gave him a scholarship opportunity or told him about a job or something like that. And then that was it. Left the pastor's office and, whatever. And then a few weeks later, Tim had come back to the pastor and said, hey, I did what you told me to do, and this is the result. And the pastor was so impressed. And she told me, that's a really good sign. She's like, I like a man with a plan. I like a man who does what he says he's going to do. And I like a man who takes advice, from authority. And that's such a small example, but the heart of that was so big. And that was one of the things I was like, okay, if she sees something good in him, and that wasn't the only person that I trusted that had thought well of Tim, but I'm giving that example because that's exactly what we were talking about of like, at the time he was saying, well, I want advice, I want mentoring, I want somebody to pour into me. But then when we all say that, but when somebody's giving you help and giving you steps, like, oh, well, that's not what I wanted. I wanted you to do something else. I wanted you to just speak life over me and encourage me. I didn't want you to give me work. And, we don't submit. So I think that that's really, really big. So again, if your guy is like, yeah, I want to grow and I want to do this, and then he's going to meet with people and nothing is coming of that. And that's one of the things we've learned, that like one of the best ways that you could say thank you to somebody who's pouring into you is doing what they said you should do. So if you go to get advice, and we honestly hate this so much, people come to us for advice and we tell them what they do and they don't do it. And say, why did you come? Like, you already were set, you were going to do what you wanted to do anyway. You were looking for me to co-sign on what you already decided, and I'm not going to do that. Just want to brag on my baby a little bit and tell that story, because I know examples can help people instead of just giving kind of overall instructions on how to approach the situations.
Yeah. On that note, this has been another episode of the W Podcast. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video.
To get more Christian relationship advice, subscribe to our channel.
And make sure you check out our other videos as well.